Here's where we left off last time. The background, the grass has been done, the shadows on the grass have been pretty much done. Now we're going to work on the trees themselves. Trees are naturally the darkest thing in the landscape because they're vertical. The light comes down at this angle, so this side of the trees is lighter than that. The tree masses are three-dimensional and cast shadows. So, let's get started. We're still working with this very small limited palette. Now the middle ground tree is going to be more muted than the far ground, than the nearest ones. The nearest ones are going to be the brightest green. So we're just going to run a little of the violet over that yellow, which will mute it and make it a little browner. And we're going to put a touch of orange in there too, just to really lighten it up and keep it about the right values. Now over here, I'm going to run some warm colors into this bit in the bush, because this is way in the foreground here. And I'm not going heavily, I'm just kind of adding a little to it. You know how you see bushes, they look a little golden sometimes. We're going to get in there with the green too. Let's see what happens when we go back to that curly circular foliage making stroke over the colors we put into muted. All of a sudden the highlights do become darker, but this is no longer that super bright electric green. It's getting more of an olive tone. It's pretty nice. Looks like a tree. Looks like a tree. We're going to get more of that green down in there. Let's get the edges a little bit fuzzy. In the middle distance, you don't have the same degree of sharp, hard edges that you do in the middle, in the front either. So, putting a little bit of the brown into the background, you've now got a tree that stands out as darker than the mountain, darker than the sky, darker than that lake, which is also something we need to get in. So, we got the sky a little darker here too. I like the lake texture. It seems to be reflecting some of the clouds, so we're just going to let it go on reflecting the clouds. Might even wash over a little bit more, seeing that the smooth washed texture seems to look better for water. And as I run this over both the parts where I drew it on and the parts I didn't, the lake is starting to look stronger again. It should be light, but not quite as light as the sky. And now we're bringing it down in value to where it'll look good. It's still mostly reflecting the sky. There we go. Let's get that green back up on the flanks. And we're going to run a little water here into this tree too, just to even out the colors some. That's good. Get into the shadow there. Yeah. Do that to some of these background trees too, so they stand out. Now I'm going to pick up a little of that and put it over here. Create a little damp patch. And see what happens. I toss a little brown. A little blue. And finally a little green in that to create another distant tree over on this side. It's all very blurry. These things are obvious. I didn't like having just...
Now this was drawn against the mountains. You can see it. It's nearer than the mountains are. Now, and for all the colors that we used on the other one, we're going to be doing that again. Come in under the deep dark shadows with a complement, which is going to come out very jazzy.
This time, we're going to make it brighter. Because this one, you go over it with the strong green in those circular foliage making strokes, just to bring everything together. Might let a little of the yellower stuff show, especially toward the very right sides, as the light catches some of the leaves and makes them look really bright yellow. But for the most part, we're going to use the really bright green here to make this foreground tree the nearest one in the lot. Now the colors are stronger. The value is a good distinct one against the background. We're going to deepen the darks after I get this green in. Probably go over it more than once here. But first, we'll get the green in thoroughly. There we go. Now this is a sky hole. This is where a little sky shows between the branches and the leaves. Yeah, and this is a little shadow that needs to be not dark blue, so we'll get that in with green. Now back to the dark blue. And we're going to take just a touch of the orange in here too, because that does make for a more natural green. And there's a little bit of warm in there. But we're not covering all the areas, we're just putting it in as little accent strokes. There we go. This is starting to look pretty good. Very natural looking. Back to the green. We'll get this a little stronger. We'll go into the shadows with it. And of course, it's a lot stronger on this side than on this side. I'll shorten the sky hole there. Now, if I had different shades of green, I would probably be putting them in right about now. Notice how the texture of the paper is also breaking my strokes. I think from a distance this tree is starting to look pretty good. What we're left with now is this bush in the front corner. Let's get that done and I think we're finished. Get some browns in there, because this is very much in the foreground. And then we're going to go over it with the green and the yellow again. And then we're just about done with the painting and it's time to sign it.